Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast. For each week, we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. If you're wondering, why in the hell am I seeing Sean on a Saturday night and it's not a Wednesday? What is going on in the world? Have things changed? Did Doge get a hold of him and made him say that he has to be more profitable and needs to come on out and do it more often? The answer to all those questions is no. I had an opportunity to speak with somebody who I love their stuff on Instagram, love their stuff on TikTok. It's actually one of the people that I reach out to personally when I'm like, hey, I'm headed back home to Baltimore. For those of you that know, I'm a giant homer. When I'm headed back home to Baltimore, it's somebody I felt like so comfortable reaching out to because he does such an amazing job online and saying, hey, dude, I'm coming home. Where should I eat? The days of Tio Pepe's and Sabatini's, they're still there, but there's so much more going on. So joining us from Baltimore, from Federal Hill, in the middle of everything that is Baltimore, right? Let me switch my buttons here. It's Mr. Chris Franzoni.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Like, you have no idea. Like, I told my wife probably 15 times today, brother, like, hey, I'm podcasting tonight. She's like, oh, that's right. Yeah. Because I don't do it on Saturday nights. I'm like, do you know who I'm talking to, though? She's like, yes, I know who you're talking to. I'm like, this is going to be great. The chubby kid that lives inside of my soul is so happy to talk to you, Chris. So we appreciate you, brother, man.
Yeah. I was at Sabatino's 2 weeks ago, actually.
Is it still as good as it always was?
So I used to go growing up because I'm born and raised in Baltimore, left for a small period of time, but I don't know if it's changed or if it's as good, because I think my tastes have changed a little bit in food, but it's still your like classic white tablecloth. Like, I don't think the menu has changed either, but classic red sauce. My go-to is like a seafood pasta, but I still like it.
I love it.
It's vintage. It's Little Italy. It's great.
It's like real Little Italy.
Yeah.
It's like legit real deal. So we're going to be getting into that, folks. We're going to be talking about the foods of Baltimore. But one of the big things that I think Chris is so amazing at is how he finds food throughout the city. And I think you can take some of his tips on how he finds food when you go to a new city, how you can discover different restaurants. And that's what we're going to be talking about, food in Baltimore and how you can discover new places maybe you've never been to. But before we get too far into it, let's talk about doing some house cleaning. Over my right shoulder is the big board for sticker and a cause. Maybe you got something you believe in, something you support. You've got your own food deal, or you got a band, or you got a podcast, whatever it is. Reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok. They're all the Above the Bar podcast. Our email is the Above the Bar podcast at gmail.com, and our website, the Above the Bar podcast.com. Let me know what you got going on. I'll supply you with an address. You send me out a sticker. I put it up here on the big board. Everyone gets to hear about you. A little bit of free advertising for everybody. So make sure you reach out to. Hold on a 1 second. I got to do this real quick. It's my brother, Justin. We're live on the air right now for the podcast. But no, listen. I got a guy. He's in Federal Hill right now, and he does food blogging, like food videos on Instagram and stuff. Go watch. Okay. Well, I don't mean watch like that. I know you're blind, but go like turn the audio up real loud. You know what I mean? Okay. All right.
Lily calling you because I got that message saying the event shall be going on.
Yeah, well,
it's only on Wednesday.
All right, but I know it's a special for Saturday.
I'm sorry to bother you.
All right, I love you. Bye. No, that's like my real brother, and he is blind. But we just found each other this year. I didn't know I had a brother until this year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's legit. 23andMe. That's a whole nother menu.
I have a story for that as well. My dad just found a sister that he didn't know about last year.
I'm not going to play the one-up game because we just found this.
Wow.
We found one a couple of years ago that my dad didn't know he had a sister, and then we just found out this year my dad has a brother, and all of his And my dad and all of his siblings have passed, except for these two that we never knew existed.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So make sure you're reaching out. Send me something here for Sticker and a Cause, folks. The other thing we got going on is we got to talk about our sponsors. That's Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, Hudson and Cooksaki, and Schoharie. North America's #1 largest window treatment company is Budget Blinds. They cover everything from blinds, shade, shutters. They do tint, you name it, they can take care of it. Drapery, it's all custom, it's all installed for you. It's all these different type of things. So make sure you're reaching out to your local Budget Blinds. And if you're up here in the capital region, you reach out to them and you let them know that you're looking for some window treatments, and you tell them you're there to belly up to the bar. They're going to give you an extra 5% off, and they're doing 20% off of all window treatments right now. Make sure you reach out to your local Budget Blinds, and that's Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, Hudson and Cooksaki, and Schoharie. All right, all that's done. All right, so Chris, here's the first question. What is it like to just get to go to some of the most badass restaurants in all of Baltimore? Let's just start there.
It's amazing. It's great. I obviously love Baltimore. And part of the reason I started this was to promote Baltimore, off the bat, because it has a negative rap around the country. So, being able to handle it, see it firsthand, to get in there, especially right when they're starting to open and seeing how it's changing the city, I think are some of the coolest parts.
Now, you mentioned the negative rap. I say this all the time. I feel like shows like The Wire and The Corner have hurt Baltimore more than it ever helped us. Homicide, Life on the Streets. Nobody makes a show other than, you remember Rock, the show Rock? Yeah. Other than the show Rock, nobody makes a show about Baltimore where it's like, hey, man, this is a really great city. There's some really awesome things. Like they made Friends in New York City sucks. But nobody wants to make a show. Do you feel the same way? Like a lot of those shows have hurt the idea of coming to Baltimore?
Yeah, a ton. And I mean, I think we're still feeling it, because anytime you go to another city, or I go to another city, people still ask, is it like The Wire? Like that was the #1 question I get as soon as I say I'm from Baltimore. Like I lived in New York, I lived in DC, and people always go right to that.
Isn't it crazy? Like that's the first thing, or they go, Baltimore, man, that's a rough city right there. That's really
And then they come and visit, and then I show them what's actually here, and they're like, wait, Baltimore's actually really cool. It has amazing food. Like I didn't know this was here. I'm like, yeah.
Do you give them do you have like a tagline that you give people? Like my tagline when people are like say that about Baltimore, I'm like, I imagine there's neighborhoods in your city that I don't belong in, and there's neighborhoods in Baltimore I don't belong in. It has nothing to do with I'm just not from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like every other city. You have good parts about it, you have bad parts about it.
That's it.
So you just have to come in and explore the good parts.
So then this becomes my next question for you then is the food and going to all these restaurants is that your main source now? Like that's what you do for a living, or is this like is something else supporting your habit?
No, it's really just supporting my habit. I'm a lawyer during the day. I work for the Maryland Attorney General's office. So I have a full-time day job. And I actually started Eat More 9 years ago. I was working in DC for the International Association of Firefighters, the firefighters union in-house. And I was commuting back and forth from DC, which is a terrible commute.
Horrible.
The worst. And while I was doing that, I started Eat More. I was already going out to eat and taking pictures of food and doing all that stuff. But I started posting and doing all the things you had to do back in the day while I was commuting back and forth, because I had an hour and a half each way, which was brutal.
That's so not even you didn't even like take the mark or nothing like that. You actually drove it.
The mark always took me longer. I didn't find the mark to be convenient.
Oh, dude, that's brutal. Like I'm just hearing you say it, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I just hate driving to DC.
Yeah.
Like in general. And let's start with DC for a second. Giant slice of pizza, yay or nay? The DC slices are big as
like Adams Morgan. Back in the day, after going out, for sure. Yeah.
You know, they were something special. Is it still a thing in DC?
So I actually just saw something about this online the other day that people were saying that they missed the jumbo slice. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, but it was just a big, giant, crazy slice.
Yeah.
But you know what DC's got now, though, that I really want to try is they have a huge Ethiopian population.
Yeah.
And I talk to people that go down that way, and they're like, dude, you have no idea how good that food is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, have you had it?
Yeah. And there's a place in Baltimore, I think that is related to a place in DC that just actually went viral. A big food TikToker went to it and kind of blew up the spot to help them out, at least temporarily. So
Nice.
It's getting a little bit of attention. Yeah.
It's fine. It's happening for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for you, when you're getting into these places, and again, folks, if you're curious about what Chris has got going on, his social media is all at Eat More, Be More, and it's BE More. The website is exactly the same, eatmorebemore.com. You can see what he's got going on. You can check out his videos. His top fives are always amazing. My personal favorite top five, I'll say this now, is the top five crab with I'm a big Costas guy. I'm a huge Costas guy.
Yeah, the best. Yeah.
People, and it's funny because growing up, Costas would have never been on my radar growing up. Not in a million years would they have been on my radar.
It's been around forever. It's been around since the 70s.
But it wouldn't have been on my so here's what I'll tell you. It would have been A1.
Yeah.
Would have been in Essex, would have been way more of a place. Them or God, there's another one up the street, and I think it's still there, and I can't think of the name of it right now. Begins with an S. I'm having a brain fart. Schultz's, thank you.
Yeah.
And you'd have gone there before you ever went to Costa's. And I lived on Old Battle Grove Road right across the street in that house.
Yeah. It's funny, a lot of these the crab houses didn't start as crab houses. They later became crab houses after the family started them. So I hope I get this right. Costa's was a Greek restaurant initially. And a few of these restaurants that are over there were other like types of cuisine. And then they moved into like the crab house realm. So, and I think Schultz's is a little bit old. I think Schultz was there in the 1960s, I believe. Because I did a roundup actually of like old, like the OG like crab houses. Because Schultz's is one of them, and it's one of the only places you can still go right now and get like a fried hard shell crab, which is a classic Baltimore.
Hold on.
We're moving fast.
Like, hold on. I've eaten soft shells my whole life. I do my soft shells BLT style. I don't know about yourself. I love BLT style with those.
Yeah.
But wait a sec. A fried hard shell?
Yeah. So there are two. Have you heard of a crab fluff?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so it's kind of like a crab fluff, where they take like a crab cake. Essentially, they clean out the hard shell crab, and then they put a crab cake in the body of it. Then they batter it, deep fry it, and then that's the fried hard shell. And then just pick the pieces off of it, and then
like I'm thinking soft shell sandwich at the moment.
Yeah. No. It's a full on.
And my brother just says,
steamed crab.
That is so sad and not true. We are every bit as strong. I know we're strong as DC and as big as New York, but people don't see it that way. He's right into it. What is the name of he's talking about, what is the name of your favorite restaurant, and why do you go through all that and not tell? Hold on. This is my brother. He's going to tell us all these things, Justin. Relax. Justin, my brother Justin's one of these kind of guys that like make sauerkraut for like 4 days before it's prepared. He's like very into those kind of things. But and we'll get to the favorite restaurant before the end of it. But what I was
like how direct he is.
Look, here's no punches pulled with him whatsoever. I love it. I got to ask you a question real quick because I had to get this from a friend of mine. And I'm going to pronounce it wrong. You're going to have to tell me. Have you ever been to Tagliata? Tagliata?
Tagliata. Yeah, in Harbor East. It's a great Italian spot. And also steaks. They have really good steaks, actually.
So have you met Julian before?
I do. Yeah, I know Julian.
So can I tell you a little bit about Julian?
Sure.
That if next time you see him, he's going to be like, are you effing kidding me? So Julian's best friend is a guy named Tyler Katolka.
Okay.
Tyler is who my one son is named after.
Mm-hmm.
I put Tyler in the Marine Corps. I told you 20 years in the Marine Corps. I was a Marine Corps recruiter.
Right.
Julian, when he came in my office one time and I was like, hey, why don't you join the Marine Corps? You could be a Marine. He's like, nah, I'm going to be a professional chef. I'm like, dude, we have cooks in the Marine Corps. You can go to all these schools. They send guys to CIA. He's like, look, bro, I'm not I'm not joining there. I'm covered. I'm good. I've got a professional gig coming up. I'm gonna be good. All these years later, he ends up right there in Baltimore. And people tell me he's like one of the biggest chefs in Baltimore at this point.
He is. Yeah. He's a great chef. I like going. Sometimes if you go there and he's working, they'll have all the other stuff that they're working on that's not off the menu. So sometimes if I'm lucky, he'll bring out like an off menu thing that they have or that they're doing. And that's the best because he can like actually be a little more creative and do more of like what he wants to do.
I love
But
that.
Very talented guy. Yeah.
So we were talking about this a minute ago. So you mentioned you were just recently you were at Sabatini's.
Yeah.
My mother worked for a company, and folks, I'm going to do my best to keep this as a good interview, but I'm just going to talk to Chris about, hey, have you been there? Man, I've been there. Have you been there? I haven't been there. I'm going to go there. But my mother always talks about, she went to Sabatini's one time and she worked for a place called Acme Paper and Supply down in Columbia. And this wasn't Acme. This was Bucari.
Okay.
You hear the name already, Bucari.
Yeah.
Very Italian family. And the Mr. Bucari actually told my mom, like, next time you're in Sabatini's, you tell them you want blank. It's not on the menu. I don't even remember what it was. It was something like tuna or something like that. It wasn't on the menu. He's like, you tell them you want that. You tell them I said so. And sure as shit, my mom was like, I would like, and they were like, no problem. We'll get that right up for you. What is that not like you talk about like with Julian and having things like, hey, let me just make you something it's not on the menu, make you something.
Yeah.
Is there anything better than going in a restaurant and being able to ask for that?
No, I would say the one thing that's great is the improved service. If people actually know who I am when I go into the restaurants, it changes the experience.
Does it really? Like, do you get recognized a lot when you go into restaurants?
I do now. I mean, because I've been doing this for 9 years now, and I don't put myself on it a lot, but I've created relationships with the restaurants themselves. So now most restaurants, I'll have someone there that I know on some level.
And you have a great voice. Let's be honest. You have a great
Thanks.
voice. I'm going to tell you my one, and I want to get your opinion. So I'm an old school Jimmy's guy.
Yeah.
I remember going, I think we talked about this online. I used to go to Jimmy's when you could get a lobster for $19.99 with stuff with crab imperial and Greek vegetables. When you think about places throughout your time as you're experiencing these new spots and experiencing these new places in Baltimore, and I'll use that as an example of something that's just been around forever.
Yeah.
Do you feel any of that nostalgia coming back, or is it very much this new fusion kind of an atmosphere?
Baltimore's in a tough place right now. A lot of people aren't coming down to the city. A lot of restaurants are closing, and a lot of people aren't opening new restaurants. There are new restaurants that are popping up, but it's not a ton. So there aren't that many of the nostalgic places. I mean, you still have Tio Pepe's that's here. You have Sabatino's, but we're kind of losing those classic spots, which is kind of sad.
Would you call Moe's a classic spot?
I mean, Moe's has been around. Yeah, they've been around for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I would call Moe's a classic spot.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
We're losing that. That hurts. That hurts just to even hear you say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think people's tastes evolve, and I think sometimes it's great to have the classic, the nostalgic, but they also have to grow with the times and change with the trends and the new things and what's happening. And I think, people have done that. People have experienced that, and people are looking for new experiences. Things are much faster now than they used to be, especially with social media. So everyone wants the newest, the best. They want to be the first to be there. They want to try everything. They want to share with everyone what they're doing. So that's sped the process up. But I think there's also a change in the quality of some of the older places. I don't think they're necessarily, and I'm not talking about any particular one. I think the quality fades over time. So the meal that you're getting today might not be the same meal that you were getting 25 years ago.
Well, the guy who was in the back, that was cooking for 35 years, who his son cooked for another 20, he's not there anymore.
Right. That's not happening anymore. And it is sad because you go into these places and you want to, like the Tio Pepe's is great. You go down into the basement. It's a classic. But it may be just a little bit different than it is. The prime rib is still around, right? So they've been around for forever. But there are very few places like those.
And you kind of reminded me of something just now, and I've had this conversation with people a lot. So you grew up in Baltimore. Did you grow up in the city or did you grow up in the county?
I grew up around. I grew up between Carroll County and Baltimore County, but I was born in the city. Yeah.
So I grew up in the county in Dundalk. Family lived on North Glover, Streeper, Monument. All these streets that that's where my people were all over.
Yeah.
But one of the things I always said about Baltimore compared to other cities that I would go to as a kid if we traveled anywhere, and then in my time in the Marine Corps, is I never felt like we had a lot of chain places. What are your thoughts on that? Like we were never a chain place city.
No. Especially downtown in the city.
Oh God, no.
There aren't a ton. I mean, a few have like popped up. I mean, what do we have? The Capitol Grill. There's a Morton's. There's a Cheesecake Factory. A few like other spots. But you're right. I've never really thought about that. It's really not a chain city. I mean, go to the county and that's all you get around 695, which is kind of the sad part. Is that people are afraid to come downtown, but it really is a cultural center where you're getting different things than you are in Baltimore County, Carroll County, and Arundel County. They're doing things that they aren't doing out there.
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
And I'll even say, even growing up in the county, we had, Philadelphia, Philadelphia Road, go up, what's the name? Philadelphia Inn, Phillips. Phillips disappoints me though. Can I tell you why Phillips disappoints me? I won't go to Phillips anymore. I won't.
Yeah.
Remember they used to have the one in I think it was Light Street Pavilion. It's either Light Street or Pratt Street. I went there one time with my mom, and I was like, oh, this is Phillips. I'm gonna get some really good, like unique.
Yeah.
They had a buffet, and I went to the buffet, and guess what Phillips had on their buffet? Mock crab meat.
Oof. That's rough.
I called the manager over. I was like, why do you have mock crab meat? You're Phillips. And the guy goes, look, man, he goes, we got to cater to all the tourists that come around here. Some of them, that's all they know. And I was like, you're Phillips, though. Like,
right. They still have the spot right in the power plant.
Oh, do they? I've never been to that.
Yeah. It's a much bigger space, but they still get a lot of tourists there.
My buddy is I don't know if he still does it or not. He used to be the, what would you call it? The promoter for that place, for the power plant. Gaetano Avarillo. You'd never be able to miss him. He's about as wide as he is tall. Just a meathead. Absolute meathead. Great dude.
What they have there? The Lava Lounge, the Chart House.
I don't even
remember all that stuff. This was like, I guess, early 2000s.
Well, here's how you can always tell if somebody's from Baltimore. I'm gonna give Chris the best Baltimore test that I can ever give somebody.
I can probably answer it before you say it.
All right. Well, what is it? What do you think it is?
Friend school. Is it what school did you go to?
That's it.
Yeah.
EVT.
Yeah.
It's such a Baltimore thing.
The embarrassing part was when I was in other cities and they asked me what school I went to, meaning college, and I would answer with my high school, and they'd be like, "What do you mean? That's not what I meant." I'm like, "Well, sorry."
Is that not? I have a cousin, the suburb of Baltimore, York, Pennsylvania. It's just a suburb of Baltimore. My cousins grew up there. And I remember one time talking to my aunt who she graduated from Patterson. And we were like, we were having this same conversation. And my cousin, I looked at my aunt and I went, where'd you go to school? She went, Patterson. My cousin was like, I was going to say what college I went to. I was like, that's because you're not from Baltimore.
Right, exactly.
My brother just texted me, said, I can't send message to you via the podcast you're doing because I can't figure out how to do it. Please tell them Phillips sucks. They suck ass. There you go, Phillips. You're getting blasted.
That's it. There you go.
But so throughout this time, and look, folks, if you want to know what Chris has got going on, again, it's all of his tags are eat more, be more, and that's BE more, or eatmorebemore.com. Same thing, BE more. So as you're getting into this, you're doing this for 9 years. At what point, because there's a lot of people out there, they're doing things like you're doing, like what I'm doing. Podcast will be 5 years in June. Where did you hit that point where you were kind of like, oh, this is working, or oh, people are noticing what I'm doing? Where was that for you?
I think it was actually when people started recognizing me when I was out. And when I saw the impact that I had also on restaurants.
Oh, what do you mean?
There was and this was actually much longer into when I started it, but like earlier on, when I posted. So have you had a crab cake egg roll?
No, but I've seen them posted.
Okay.
And they look amazing.
So this was probably maybe was it this long ago? Maybe it was like, no, it was probably 5 years ago. I posted a crab cake egg roll that was at one place in Baltimore in Federal Hills, AJ's on Hanover, which is actually still open. It's right on Hanover Street. And they created a crab cake egg roll, which came with like an Old Bay aioli. And I posted it and it blew up online and they had like lines out the door. And then they wrote an article about it in the Baltimore Sun. And then other restaurants started to pick it up. One of which was Jimmy's, because they jump on things relatively quickly. I will say one thing about Jimmy's is that they are good at marketing.
Absolutely.
Right. And I'll leave it there. But
they're good at it.
Yeah. So places like that started picking up the crab cake egg roll. So that's kind of that was a turning moment when I realized the impact that my account could have on things is when it created. I didn't create the crab cake egg roll at all. Like a chef actually made it for AJ's and they put it on the menu. I shared it and it kind of just blew up on across many medias, and then other restaurants started picking it up. So now a crab cake egg roll is a thing. I mean, when you go to restaurants, it's on a lot of different menus.
Yeah. Did you see the one that I sent you one today? Did you see it on Instagram? I gotta pull this up because this was like.
Oh, I did. I haven't had that yet. I know what you're talking about. Cafe de Leon. Yeah, that looks amazing.
That looked insane to me. And that, but that also kind of brings. Look, folks, this is an interview with Chris that I could probably do for several hours over a 12 of Natty Boh. And if you don't know what Natty Boh, it's not what is the other one? National beer. It's Natty Boh is only one. It's National Bohemian. That natty bullshit. We could do this over for hours and sit there and talk. But do you ever get tired of people thinking that we're a one-trick pony of, well, you guys got crab cakes? You guys get steamed crabs and crab cake. Do you ever get tired of that? Because I'm a pit beef guy, and I try to explain pit beef to people, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah. I mean, I actually think that. So I don't get tired of it because I think it's one of the positive things about Baltimore and Maryland that puts us on the map a little bit. No one else does crabs or crab cakes or fried hard shells or crab fluffs or anything like that. And I think most people don't even use as an ingredient crab in good ways.
Blue crab.
Not blue crab. And even when I lived outside of Baltimore, I don't think there are very many cities in the U.S. that do seafood as well as we do.
No.
They just don't for some reason. So no, I don't get tired of it. I think I am not even tired of eating crab yet for some reason. I have it a lot.
Never be tired. It will never have. Dude, my kids love steamed clams, steamed shrimp. My kids, none of them have ever even lived in Baltimore. And they're all about it, and they can pick and they can do everything. Here's one for you. I can get live crabs in Albany, New York.
From where? Do you have them shipped in?
Yes, there's one. It's a produce place. I have to go there a week in advance. Tell the guy I need a bushel of live, and he'll show up. He'll call me up. He's like, "Hey, I got your bushel of live." Bro, I get looked at like I have 15 heads when I go to pick them up. And this was a couple of years ago. I haven't picked them up in a couple of years. It's about $2.50 a bushel. Yeah. And they're not even number ones. They're just whatever. Right. Yeah. They're whatever. My brother's he's like, he can't figure this out. He's like all over texting me like, I love him. He's the best. He's like, it's not only pit beef, it's also snowballs, crab cakes. I'm going to talk to you about snowballs here in a minute. Did you know there's another city that makes snowballs?
It's New Orleans, right?
It is. Yeah. And this is what was crazy is we're the birthplace of the snowball. Right. But they invented the snowball machine. They invented the machine was out of there.
Interesting. I need to do a little bit more research on the origin of the snowball because I feel like there's a little bit of a rivalry of who created the first snowball. But what is the original? I mean, the original flavor is the
original one
custard,
is egg
right?
custard. Egg custard was the first. Like we were the first ones to really come up with a flavor egg custard. There's a great Wikipedia page if I could find it that kind of talks about it, and it basically says it started in Baltimore with the ice trucks coming through and kids running up, and the guys would just shave some ice off in a cup, and then moms adding flavor, and kind of a similar thing in New Orleans. But what happened in New Orleans is they started to there was a guy, and they still make these machines, or Wizard I think is the name of the company, and they started. The guy was like, I can make a machine to actually chip this ice and sell these. So they're the birthplace of the physical machine, but as a treat, Baltimore. And then they used to be called, was it penny ice or penny something? It was like, because it was a Depression era thing,
right? That
they were super inexpensive.
You can still get the original egg custard flavor made the way that it was. It's a place called, that's what I was just looking up. It's called the Peggy. And it's the first snowball stand here.
Like that's a flavor. Like how do you even explain egg custard to someone who's never had it?
That's a good question. I would say vanilla.
Like a vanilla caramel.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing going on because it is vanilla extract in there.
Yeah.
Like it's I'll explain it this way, folks. My flavor is sky blue or skylight, whatever the particular was being called at that time. And egg custard is just glorious. And if you don't like it, let me know. For those of you that are watching us live, real quick, if you got questions for Chris, you want to know about a food spot, maybe you got a new spot for him to check out, I promise you he will go in and see what it's all about. So if you've got a spot for him to check out, let us know. Now, this kind of gets back into our topic, though, for a minute, though, Chris, is how do you – so you've traveled, you've lived different places, so have I. I know how I do it. And unfortunately, I used to have an amazing app. It's gone. I don't even remember the name of it. I used to have a great app that when I went to a new city, I could use. But what is your process when you go to a new city to kind of figure out, like, where can I eat? And do you have like a process like, hey, first I'm going to start with comfort food, and then I go for fancy? What is it for you for finding it? And then how do you start it?
For finding it, I generally just I'll just do a regular Google search first and then pull up all the big lists and match up which ones are showing up on the majority of the list. Now, they either have a good PR team or they're actually, really, really solid. Once you have that, then you can go to the social media accounts that they run and see what it actually looks like. Most times I can look at the pictures and determine whether or not I'm going to like the restaurant or not. Not whether or not it's good or whether it's going to be my, preference.
Do you have something where you're looking at it and you're like, that's a whole lot of parsley you've set there? Like, what is it for you?
I have, for some reason, this is a little bit off topic, but microgreens at restaurants, we'll get back to how I do it. When they put too much microgreens on top of a plate that have no purpose, that drives me crazy. I'm like, why am I digging through a salad to get to my steak?
I'm 100%
or whatever it is. I'm like, I don't need this. Sometimes they have a purpose. Sometimes they have like different flavors. Like there is micro cilantro if you like that, and like that on a taco, fine. But like, I just leave the parsley. I don't need it. I'd rather just have the food.
So you start with the Google search and look. Now, when you said some of the other lists, what are you talking about?
If you just Google like top restaurants, then you'll get like, they may be on Food and Wine, they may be on Bon Appetit, they may be on Thrillist or Eater or something like that. Or the top lists from the local magazines. Like if you look at like Baltimore Magazine, their top 50 list, they're pretty good.
Pretty accurate.
Baltimore is a smaller city, but they're pretty accurate. You're not going to get a bad meal at most of those restaurants. And they try not to play to like the advertisers. That's another thing when you're dealing with all the websites and everything, is that there's a certain level that's pay for play. So you kind of have to decipher through that. They do a good job at that. And, also you can find like the local blogs. TikTok, if it stays around, it's another good place to do, type in the city for food.
Will it, TikTok, will it or won't it make it? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I think it does.
I think it sticks around. I don't see it. I don't see it going anywhere. My brother just texted me. 100% agree. I ain't a damn rabbit. He ain't trying to dig through no microgreens. Medium rare steak. What are you?
Medium rare.
Did you have to? This is actually just a completely sidebar question. Did you have to become a medium rare guy, or were you just always like? I feel like I grew up medium, and then somebody explained to me medium rare, and I had it, and I was like, "Oh, this is right."
No, this actually takes me back to when I was younger. I used to go on camping trips with my mom and my stepdad, and we would just get cubes of steak and put that on a stick and do it over the campfire. And I would actually, this may be kind of gross now that I'm saying it out loud. I would cook it. I would cook it over the campfire, salt it, and then I would eat it. And then I would keep cooking it, and then I would take bites.
Oh!
I survived.
Listen, and no salmonella there.
No, I survived. But so I think I've always kind of been medium rare, because sometimes I take that bite and I'd be like, "Oh, this isn't. We're not quite there yet."
I get my wife wants it to double as a hockey puck. Like if she sees anything, she's like, No, cook that. You need to cook that more.
Yeah.
I'm like,
at that point, I would see what the point is. I'm like, you're just chewing on a shoe.
Now, out of pure curiosity here, because that's all my life is, Baltimore, we've got the, I know cannabis is legalized there, right? Recreational.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have we opened any cannabis restaurants?
So it's interesting. And I have a little bit of understanding of this from my day job, is that there aren't cannabis restaurants, but the whole world of cannabis in drinks is something that's not completely regulated at this point, my understanding. So you have cannabis that's regulated on one hand, you have alcohol that's regulated on the other, but now you have this middle ground of where they're modifying cannabis and putting it in drinks, and it's kind of a gray area of where that's coming in. But there was a chef who actually who was in Baltimore, who is now in New York. He was I loved his stuff. He had a restaurant that closed, and then he moved to New York, was doing cannabis dinners. So it wasn't a cannabis restaurant,
like private dinner.
He would do a private dinner and then infuse cannabis in varying levels for different effects with the meal.
What's your feel on that? I'm 50-50 on that.
On what?
I'm curious. Like, I love a good meal. Like, I want to sit down. I want to enjoy it. I want to understand it. I've been to some I've ate at Yono's, or not Yono's, but God, what the hell is his name? Morimoto's. I ate at Morimoto's in Philly when he first opened it.
Yeah.
And have spoken to Morimoto. Like, he came to my table. So I love that level, but I want to be clear-headed. But at the same time, I'm really curious, like, how does this affect my meal? Like, am I getting hungrier as I'm eating?
Yeah, I think, like with all things, like with alcohol pairings and all of that stuff, I think there is a way to do it. I think from my limited conversations with him on these dinners, there's a way to progress the infusion throughout the dinner so it enhances your experience. So by the end of the dinner, you're not just sitting there like, what am I eating? There's a way to do it. Right.
Yeah, that's my whole thing. It's like, I don't want to be a zombie stoned out of my mind. God, I've just got. I have to tell you, Chris, I'm not completely starstruck, but I'm pretty starstruck by getting a chance to talk to you, because I just enjoy your stuff. Now, has there ever been for you, like, and you ain't got to put somebody on blast, but if you want to, I don't mind. But how about a restaurant where everybody was like, dude, you got to go check this place out. Like, you need to go check this out. And you went there and you're like, you just, when it was all said and done, it was.
So my whole thing is back to the beginning of the conversation, is to shed a positive light on Baltimore.
Okay.
So I very, very rarely will say something negative. I never really do a negative review. And I try to only highlight the positive, because there's so much negative around Baltimore anyway. So my opinion is that it doesn't help me. It doesn't help the restaurant. There's enough negativity around right now. I don't have to go and add to that. And I think the other thing that people forget when you go into Yelp and when you write these reviews, is that there are actual people behind these restaurants, especially the mom and pop shops. And opening a restaurant has never been easy. Opening a restaurant right now is extra hard. And if you're doing that, you're super passionate about what you're doing. And you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears, all of your time. You're putting everything to the side to focus on that restaurant. So I never really, if I go in, I never will say that it's not that it's not good. I might not go back. And generally at this point, like I said, like I can look at a restaurant and determine whether or not it's going to be good from the jump. But yeah, I try to keep it positive. I mean, I have a few in mind, but
you're like, we'll talk.
I can talk to you. We'll talk offline.
We'll talk afterwards. I won't put their names out there, but I mean, it's just such a curiosity because I know there's sometimes people are so passionate about like, dude, you got to try this place. It's so amazing. It's the greatest thing I've ever had. And then the next person walks in behind, you're like, hey, my chicken's still frozen in the middle of this. Like, what happened here?
Yeah. The other thing I think I see a lot of, oh, sorry. I didn't mean
no, go, please.
Is that many people think that they should open restaurants and maybe shouldn't.
Listen to me.
There's an art to it.
You get the laser beams and everything. It's funny because I was going to get your opinion on something. So back to snowballs here for a second. We're talking about that. So my wife is from Albany, New York.
Yeah.
This is the worst food city on the planet. On the planet. Listen to me. There is nothing creative here. Just like New York, there's nothing creative here. It is so vanilla. Their claim to fame, you may have heard me talk about this, is tiny hot dogs inside of tiny buns with a meat sauce and a little bit of onions and mayo. Are they good? They're good. I enjoy them. But that's their claim to fame. So we were talking about opening a snowball truck here.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any desserts. My brother just texted me, vanilla, London, England, for worst food city. But what are your feelings? It kind of brings me when you talk about opening restaurants, when people have a passion about like, man, I've got this thing. And I really think, how well do you think our food translates? Because I can tell you right now, nobody makes a crab cake like in Baltimore. They're normally 4 pounds of breadcrumbs and like 2 pieces of not even lump crab meat. Like, how well does our food translate outside, or do people really enjoy it outside of it?
With crab cakes, what drives me the most crazy are the peppers.
Putting the green and red peppers in there.
Oh, what are you? No,
I've never had it. Never once.
If you have a real crab cake, I'm a crab cake purist, so I want as little everything else as possible.
Yellow mustard,
and I'm okay with yellow mustard. I'm
saltines.
Yeah, I mean, but I really just like the crab cake.
Okay.
I think if you have Maryland crab, and the other thing is like Maryland crab is a lot different than the crab that you're getting in other places too, right? So when you're going to other cities to have a crab cake, you off the bat, you don't have the same flavor. So maybe that's why they're enhancing it, because it doesn't have the same flavor as getting it here. And even here, you have a hard time getting Maryland crab cakes, like actual Maryland.
A lot of them come out of Texas. It's a lot of it's Texas crab.
So I don't think crab cakes translates well to other cities. And also snowballs. You can't get snowballs anywhere else. I think if you opened a snowball stand in Times Square, you would kill it.
I would agree with that. We're talking about doing a snowball truck here in the Albany area, but offering you get all your flavors. I don't care. If somebody steals the idea from me, good on you. Godspeed. I'll still do it better than you. That's just who I am. But we're talking about having added to it, either you can get it Baltimore style or New Orleans style. You know what New Orleans puts on theirs? They put condensed milk.
Yeah. They do that here too, at all the good places, actually.
I've never had condensed milk in Baltimore. How dare they? It's blasphemy. My brother's over here blowing me up real quick. He says there's an amazing way to pair marijuana with brownies, steaks, anything. It's all the way you do it. It's about getting high. It's more about texture and taste. And he said, there's nobody on the place of this earth I can ever make a crab plate like we do in Baltimore. Sure. I agree with you. And we're getting, bro, this is just blown through for me. We're getting close to closing the bar, and we got to talk about one of our other sponsors. It's at Last Call, and that's New Scotland Spirits. If you're looking for a spirit that is as bold and as rich as New York history, New Scotland Spirits is crafting exceptionally locally sourced whiskeys that tell a story with every sip. From grain to glass, they honor the tradition while pushing the boundaries of flavor. Whether you're a whiskey connoisseur or just getting started, there's a bottle waiting for you. Raise your glass to true craftsmanship. Find New Scotland Spirits near you or visit newscotlandspirits.com to learn more. New Scotland Spirits, where history and flavor meet. Got to pay the bills, man. You got to do what you got to do.
You got to do it.
I will tell you. Maybe we'll have to talk about an address. Are you a whiskey or a bourbon guy?
I actually don't drink.
Not at all. Interesting. Well, then I won't send you a bottle of it then. I was going to say,
go ahead.
I'll send you a bottle. So they do all their stuff. And New York is not New York. Just so you know, folks, just for anybody listening, there's New York City, which smells like hot bum piss. If you've never been there, that's the smell. Like as soon as you get off in Penn Station, I worked for Amtrak for 7 years. Trust me, it smells like hot bum piss. And then you come to where I'm at in New York, and you're like, oh, I'm in Western Maryland. It's absolutely nothing like it, but they do really good alcohol out here. Like that's one of the things they have mastered out this way. And these guys, all their stuff is made in comes from the Helderberg Mountains. So it's absolutely amazing. Great dudes. So, and again, folks, if you're out there, make sure you like and share and following all this. I see a couple of you watching. Hit that like button for me. So, and check out at Eat More, Be More, BEMORE, and eatmorebemore.com. See what Chris has going on. So, Chris, I got to put you on the spot. Where, like, next time I'm home, my brother wants to go out to eat. Where am I taking him, inside and outside of the county? Right, in and outside of the city.
Yeah, my favorite restaurant is the Thames Street Oyster House in Fells Point.
I love Fells Point.
Yeah,
where's it at in Fells Point from where the bakery is?
It's on Thames Street on Thames
Street. It's on Thames Street. Okay,
right,
gotcha.
Yeah. Right across from like the Pendry, basically.
Okay.
Great spot. Best lobster roll in the city. Incredible oyster bar and raw bar. They have a lot of different options. But that's my go-to. I always know I'm going to have a really good meal.
Oh, my buddy Mark Fisher just popped up. Here's another good Baltimore kid. Now you kind of brought up a question. Is the Bop still open?
Wait, the what?
The Bop.
Like the pizza place?
Pizza. Yeah.
No, that closed. Yeah.
Do you know what they used to have?
That was more recent too, actually.
Do you know what they used to have that was absolutely incredible? Did you ever have their dessert pizza?
No.
They used to do a dessert pizza. They would warm the crust up. They would put it was like a chocolate strawberry sauce for the marinara, shaved white chocolate on top of that for the cheese, and then put bananas, strawberries, and kiwi fruit on top of that for your toppings. And it was a little bit larger than a French bread because it was so rich. Yeah. But bro, I'm telling you right now, that place was incredible. I saw that Bertha's got sold not long ago. I saw that.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not open anymore. I don't know who bought it though.
Yeah, there was something online about Bertha's being sold. I do my best to stay up. So that's my best that I got in the city. Is there any place outside of the city, whether I'm traveling around the county, anywhere where you're like, you got to go check this out?
I mean, I could do a plug for my parents' restaurant.
Your parents have a restaurant and you haven't said it?
They have a restaurant, yeah.
What is your parents' restaurant?
They're in the Manor Tavern, which has really been around forever, since like the 1700s.
The Manor Tavern. Why does it sound?
It's in Moncton.
Moncton. I know of Moncton. I don't know if I've ever been to Moncton. Where the hell's Moncton?
Old school tavern. It's like if you're going up Delaney Valley Road. It's like Towson. It's like northwest of Towson, I guess. Maybe but like 15 minutes north of like ish of Towson.
That's amazing. Like,
yeah.
Well, tell everybody what the address offhand. Like, so let it.
I do not.
Mom and Dad, you don't know it.
Sorry, guys. No, the Manor Tavern, Moncton, Maryland. Classic American cuisine, tavern food. They have a great pork chop.
When you get a pork chop, what is your go-to side? I got to ask this because I know what it is for me.
So growing up, it would be sauerkraut,
applesauce,
and my grandmother would do sauerkraut. She would do applesauce too, and also cucumber salad.
Oh,
would be another one. Yeah,
my grandmother used to make the best cucumber and tomato salad, and I still
Yeah.
make it to this day.
Yeah.
Cucumber, tomato, Vidalia onion, and just mayo, sugar, and
Oh
apple
yeah.
cider
The
vinegar.
sugar.
And,
The added sugar is the key to that.
yeah, and you mix them all together, and it's got to
Yeah.
sit in the fridge for like an hour or two.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that mayo turns pink from the
Yeah.
tomatoes opening up.
Yeah.
Dude, that was like the go-to. Just like I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Have you ever had mac and cheese with stewed tomatoes?
I not mixed together, but I've had them together at the same time.
If you ever can find somebody that
Yeah.
does like a true classic mac and cheese with stewed tomatoes, like on top of the mac and cheese,
Yeah.
stewed tomatoes.
My
Dude,
grandmother used to make, it's actually my dad's birthday meal would be fried hake, and then the two sides were mac and cheese and stewed tomatoes.
what is hake?
Just like a flaky like whitefish.
Never had that.
It's good. Yeah.
And we got to talk about something here for a second. We kind of touched on this for anybody who doesn't know what it is. How amazing is pit beef? Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah. Another Maryland
Like
icon.
it reminds me, if you ever go up to Philly, it's getting a pork sandwich in Philly. Like people don't they think cheesesteak in Philly. They don't think of the pork sandwich. Oh, here's one for you.
By the docks.
Mark and I have literally known each other since first grade. By the dock in Bowley's Quarters. You ever been out that way? I know you don't go out. It doesn't sound like you run out into the county too often. For some of these.
No. Actually, if I'm leaving Baltimore for dinner, then I'll do DC a lot. Actually, I like DC.
You got to come out to the county a little more.
Yeah,
I think you'd be surprised how much is out there in the county.
Yeah.
Especially, I've always said that like Sparrows Point, Edgemere is such a weird, unique area that it's the only place I know of. Like you could be in somebody's house and you're like, "Oh, this is beautiful. What'd this run you? Oh, it was $1 million. How did you pay $1 million? There's a trailer next to you."
Right. Especially now, after post-COVID, especially.
Yeah.
Everyone moved out and they bought all the waterfront. I feel like before people weren't living on the water. Now they're buying it all up at crazy rates. Yeah.
Well, there's a great video if you ever get it. If I see it again, I'll share it with you. Where a guy's like, in Maryland, we all want to live on the water till you live on the water.
Right. Yeah.
And you realize like this sucks. That's like my aunt and uncle grew up on Rumsey Island up in Harford County. Love it up there. Again, there's another place where there's nothing going on. Maryland's just such a weird city, like weird state, and Baltimore being that kind of a city. Look, folks, if you got a spot that you want Chris to know about, this is the time. I'm going to ask this question, and again, eat more, be more. Eatmorebemore.com. Is there any spot of the classics? Now we talked about your current favorite.
Yeah.
Is there any of the classics? For me, I'm a Jimmy's guy. I love Jimmy's as a classic.
Yeah.
But is there any of the classics that you sit there and you tell people like, look, if you want to get a taste of Baltimore, and I don't mean like, because there's like you show some stuff, dude, and I'm always like, there was that new one you said that has the downstairs like chef's table.
Oh yeah, the food market. Yeah,
the food market. Or you could send somebody to Lexington Market and you'd be like, you can, just avoid the rat that's in the case. You'll be fine. But you post a lot of those places. But is there any spot that you would send somebody where you're like, this is like classic Baltimore? Go ahead and get this, and you'll be awesome.
I mean, if you're doing my favorite place for the classic foods, like Coco's for a crab cake out on Harvard Road. It's the best crab cake in Baltimore. And people, I mean, people don't agree on a lot of things these days. People will agree that Coco's is a top tier crab cake. When I post it, everyone's like, yes, this is it. This is the one. I think Costa's for crabs. That's my go-to to get steamed crabs. The prime rib is still around. So if you want to do a steak, Chap's Bit Beef out on 40 is always a fun place to go.
And you can go see boobies right next door.
Yes, literally, yes. Go inside.
I mean, physically, you can go see boobies right next door.
10 feet away.
Not even a golf swing, a good chip shot. And you can see
Right.
boobies right there.
What are some of the other ones that are? I mean, there's the big one. I think of like classic Baltimore, La Scala in Little Italy.
Oh, I've never been to La Scala.
It's a great spot. Yeah, Cafe Gia is still there. Sabatino's is still there.
We have
La Scala is
we have horrible diner food.
Yeah.
We lose the diner game, you know that?
We still have Sip and Bite. Sip and Bite is still around.
I've never been to Sip and Bite.
Right on Boston Street, yeah.
Yeah, like we have horrible diner food. We even had a movie though called The Diner. We had the movie. What's the movie? Diner? Is it called Diner?
What's it called? Diner, yeah.
Yeah, it was called Diner. And we have horrible diner food comparably to other cities. How is that even possible? Like I
don't know how you mess up diner food.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
the only one that I remember is right there on the corner of Merritt and is it Merritt and Holabird out there because they actually do sour beef and dumplings, which I think is a very Baltimore thing. But
another Baltimore thing. Yeah. Schultz's does too, actually. Back to the crab house. They do sour beef and dumplings.
I didn't know they did sour beef and dumplings. Like I love sour. Like folks, if you're hearing the two of us and we're talking about sour beef and dumplings and you're like, what in fucking God's green
what are you eating? Right. Yeah.
Listen to me. It was the greatest thing if when you were a kid, if your mom made sour beef and dumplings like mine, because we always had ginger snap cookies in the house.
Right. That's right. The way to do it. Right.
Right. You had ginger snap cookies. How much better is that? Like you always had cookies in the house that you could go grab one. And there was never any like, why do you still have these? Because we're having sour beef and dumplings. I tried to get my mother to make that for me recently because she was coming up and she's like, I'm not making that. That's like way too much work.
It's a long process. It's hard.
It really is. It's one of those kind of things that, excuse me, unless you really love it, there's not a lot of people that are going to sit down and eat that. Like,
and people don't know how to do it the right way because you can really mess it up and be like, why would anyone eat this sour beef? But if it's done the right way,
I love it.
Then it's good. Yeah.
Oh, and big fat dumplings. Do you ever have chicken and dumplings?
Yeah.
So
not very often, but I mean, it's good. A good winter comfort food.
Good. I mean, folks, I'm gonna find Chris when next time I'm back home. I'm gonna make him at least point me in the direction of an amazing restaurant that I can just fat kid out at. I'm gonna take an Uber there so I don't take my truck down into Baltimore. I ain't gonna lie, I'm that guy. I'm not gonna take my truck all the way down there. I got a nice truck, man. I just got a brand new truck. So
nice.
I'm trying. But I mean, folks, please go check out what Chris has got going on. Eat more, be more, eatmorebemore.com. It is absolutely amazing the stuff he's got going on. He's posting all the time. I'm flipping over here to his Instagram just for a hot moment here, just to see what the latest and greatest that he's got going on here. Eat more, be more. There he is. You know, he's got his snazzy picture on top here. New restaurant, Hidden Speakeasy in Baltimore. Oh, all right. We'll get one more real quick one because you got the video up here. A few Valentine's date ideas for you and your boo. Where are we going?
That one I did. I actually just reposted that from like 2 years ago because all the restaurants were still open, so I kind of just threw that up. But I did do. I write for the Baltimore Banner as well. So I had an article come out last week about Valentine's Day spots, and I have another one coming out tomorrow about where to go for like Valentine's Day, or if you're single, or like non-date night activities. But I think one of the best date night Valentine's spots is Tagliata. It hits all the spots. It's romantic. The food's really good. So that's a pretty.
Wonder if Julian would let me in. Wonder if Julian would let me hang out there.
I'm sure he would.
I'll have to I have to contact Tyler and tell him, like, look, man, I'm going to come back down there, see if Julian will let me in. I like this one that you did, luxury rooftop dining, the Winter Village. That's really cool. That just looks cool. Yeah. Like, I mean, you folks go check out everything Chris has got going on. The Dave Point, I have to say, for Dave Pointoy, like here down the road from me, I will say he gave the Fazio's Pizza here in the capital region. I don't know if it still is, but at one point in time, it was his highest rated pizza
Really?
he's ever had. Yeah, it's the Fazio. And it ruined pizza for us around here because it was a place that might take you 30, 45 minutes to get a pie.
Yeah.
If I called them on a Tuesday at 4:00, was like, hey, I want to get a pizza. Yeah, it's going to be 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, really, bro?
Still
like,
now?
Well, right after it happened, it was 2 hours. It was probably still be at least an hour or so now because it's kind of like everybody's like, oh, when we get the Fazio's, it's good pizza, but it's like everybody's lost their mind. But check out what he's got. But I did like what he said about Pizza John's. He didn't slam Pizza John's. Yeah. He was like, I get it. It's it's pepperoni cups. It's one of those kind of places.
Well, he has a specific criteria for his type of pizza. So if you're not fitting within that, then you're not getting a high score.
And Pizza John's does not. Yeah. Pizza John's is very different.
Yeah. And even Frank's, they got a good score, but even because I've done a little work with Frank's before and Jerry, because they're great guys. We're actually going to work on a variation of a cheesesteak, hopefully in the next couple of months.
What do you mean?
But Portnoy gave, so we're going to do a fancy like truffle cheese Wagyu cheesesteak. That's the idea. We have to kind of put it together. But Portnoy gave them a higher score on their cheesesteak, which is amazing, than on the pizza. But even they recognized, they're like, we knew that if he was coming in here, that it wasn't exactly he likes. And he even knew down, he's like, he's going to like more sauce. He's going to like less cheese. He's going to want it cooked a little bit more. So they knew what they do. They just have their own style. So what you're saying is a lot of places prep for him when he shows up, kind of a thing. No. He just showed up there. I'm saying that their dream was to have him visit, but they knew that their style of pizza and their recipe didn't fit exactly what.
But they're getting great, dude. They're getting great. Like that's got them blowing up.
Yeah, same thing. 2 hour. I mean, if you would call them tonight, you would be waiting 2 hours to get a pizza, probably.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah,
I mean and that's folks. I'm gonna tell you right now, Baltimore's got great pizza. We got great pizza and we got great cheesesteaks. I'll put our pizza and our cheesesteak against anything I had out of Philly and anything I had out of New York. And I've ran through all of them. I've gone to all of them. It's like when people say, what's the best cheesesteak in Philly? It's whatever neighborhood you live in. It has nothing to do with it. Look, folks, go check out what Chris has got going on. Eat More, Be More, BEMORE. That's his handle and all of his social media. That's his .com. See what he's got going on now. Now, don't log off on me right after this, Chris. We got to talk for half a minute because I am still curious of what those restaurants you were going to tell me are. Real quick before I give you the last piece, Squires, yes or no?
Yes.
I love Squires.
No.
I love Squires. I do. My mom lives like
right there,
literally 2 blocks up from Squires. I love Squires. Squires is, again, classic Baltimore. So I know we talked about this beforehand. You've binge watched all 270 some episodes. You are fully immersed in the Above the Bar podcast culture, all these type of things. But I'm just going to remind you, as we do on every episode, the guest always gets the final word. So what's the final word tonight, Chris?
Final word is get out there, eat, be positive, enjoy all of the food, try new things, and push the limits of what you want to experience because there's so much good food out there. And visit Baltimore.
Alrighty, folks, be sure to push your stool in. This has been a Second Front podcast presentation found on Apple, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found.